Hello, everyone. I'm Shelley Meitzler, Director of Community Education and Resources at the TSC Alliance and your moderator today. The Dravet Syndrome Foundation, LGS Foundation, and TSC Alliance thank you for joining today's joint town hall on the STARS clinical trial presented and sponsored by UCB Inc. This webinar is being recorded. By participating, you consent to the recording and future distribution. The camera setting by default has been turned off for all participants. We encourage you to participate on camera if you feel comfortable doing so, but if you do not wish to be on the recording, please keep your camera off throughout the presentation. Everyone's microphone will be muted throughout the speaker presentation. Questions for the speaker can be submitted via the chat box and will be asked by the moderator at the end of the presentation. We will do our best to answer as many questions as time allows. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Roebling. He is a trained neurologist and epileptologist. He joined UCB as medical director in 2017 and initially led the development of two existing drugs, Keppra and Vimpat, and now leads the development of a potential new treatment device for seizures. It's now my pleasure to turn it over to Dr. Roebling.
Thank you so much, and hello everyone from myself. Again, my name is Robert Roebling and I'm a medical director at UCB. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of the webinar to give UCB and myself a chance to speak to you, all of you here and now. Thanks also for all the advertising of the webinar across the three organizations. This is a truly unique and fantastic way to reach out to you, patients and relatives, and to be able to present to you on what we are currently doing. So just for the background, UCB is a, let's say, mid-sized pharmaceutical company that focuses on developing new medicines, mainly for epilepsy, some immune disorders, and recently also a bone disease. Some of you may have come across some of the older classical anti-seizure medications developed by UCB, such as Keppra and Vimpat. And as I just heard, I was the medical lead of these compounds until recently. And while these medicines and also others are great, we do have to acknowledge that in a number of cases, the ultimate goal of these medicines, that is to get patients completely seizure-free, is not always achievable. For that purpose, and for those cases, rescue medications have been developed and have been in use for decades. And there have been several major advances in the field of rescue medications to make them easier to use. And again, some of you may have heard or come across the recently approved nasal sprays, one of which also from UCB. And these nasal sprays have an effect in about a few minutes. And based on that profile, they are approved for the treatment of seizure clusters or series of seizures. So if someone has a seizure and another seizure and has the sort of fear of another seizure, you can take these drugs after the last seizure to prevent the next one. And while also these new and most recent rescue medications are great advances, there are still cases when there is a need or wish for an even faster effect. And that is when you want to treat and stop an ongoing seizure. For that purpose, for that aim, you would want to have a drug that works within a minute or even less. And with that, can we go to the slides? And directly go to the second slide. Thank you. So as I said, this is the aim of the development of staccato alprazolam. That is the drug I will show you in a moment in more detail. The aim means it is not yet actually achieved. Staccato alprazolam is not yet available or approved anywhere in the world. We are still developing it. We have strong belief and we have good reason to believe it's working and is safe, but we still have to prove and show that. And the one and only way to do that is to conduct a clinical study, which is what we're currently doing. Also, I myself, I'm a full-time employee by UCB, as are all other contributors to this slide deck. So let's start with the actual device. And if you can unshare now and put me back to the screen, please. I'll show you the device and I hold it as close as possible to the camera. This is device, as it's manufactured by a different company. It's called Alexa. It has developed this device a few years ago to make it possible to deliver different drugs, not just alprazolam, as quickly as possible to the body. They assessed or considered different medical conditions, including panic disorder, diabetes for rapid insulin delivery, and acute pain, where obviously a need is there to delivery of a drug as rapidly as possible. Actually, they didn't consider epilepsy or seizures in the first place. It was an American professor who sort of got the idea and then conducted a small mini study to look at if it's sort of reasonably achievable to use this device also in patients with epilepsy. This mini study was done in, I think, about 2017. It was looking good. And after that, a small company called Engage Therapeutics was founded. Engage was set up to conduct essentially one major study. We call this a phase 2 study, in which different patients with different seizures were studied. This was conducted in 2019 in US clinics. That means every patient had to go into a clinic and was then essentially waiting for a seizure or a seizure cluster to happen, and then either treated himself or herself, or if there was someone else, like a nurse or a relative present, they would do it for the patients. The data from this study was available in 2019, and it looked promising, indeed very promising, so that the company Engage was approached by the company I work for, UCB. And in 2020, the little company Engage was acquired, was bought by UCB. And from then on, it's now UCB, it's sort of us developing this device, Staccato, with the rescue medication inside for the treatment of what we call prolonged seizures. So let me show the device again. And actually, I will start by explaining how it works, by what it not is. This is a asthma spray that we use here in Europe, and I believe that in the US, you'll have similar asthma sprays. You use that, that's not Staccato, of course, by removing the cap, pressing the button here, and then the drug gets ejected here. And that works fine for asthma, because the patient with the asthma attack can essentially synchronize the button press with the breathing in of the drug. That way, it's ensured that the drug for the asthma treatment gets delivered to the lungs where it's supposed to go. Now, during a seizure, a person may not be able to do that. They cannot intentionally or voluntarily breathe in. So you may want to, or you would maybe press the button here, and the drug would be wasted, because if no breathing occurs for the device, the drug wouldn't get where it's wanted. So this device is sort of a high-tech device, very lightweight, and it has an air inlet you can see here, where the air gets in, and there is a sensor in this device that measures the airflow going through it. That means if you breathe in here and there is enough airflow going through the device, then this device detects automatically that now it can deliver the drug. And that means only if there is enough breathing in, enough airflow sort of coming from the mouth of the patient, then this device triggers and delivers the drug to the lung and then the body. So how it works is, let's assume a seizure occurs. Either the patient himself, herself, or someone else around notices the seizure. Then you would pull this little paper tab, like a kid's toy, to unfold the battery, and it's active. And it's active for about 15 minutes. And for that time, then a green light would appear here. You know, it's sort of, it's active and working. Then you can try for 15 minutes to administer the drug. Usually it will work pretty quickly, but you know, sometimes it doesn't work initially. So you can try without wasting the drug until you successfully deliver the drug to the body. That way, we have achieved in our testing that the drug can be delivered to the body and the brain in less than a minute, which is essentially what our ambition was. And from there on, we have planned, and now we are conducting the phase 3 that is currently ongoing. And for that, we are still looking for patients to be recruited. If you now could switch to the slides again. Thank you. So this again shows essentially how it's looking, and you've seen the slide, the device on screen before. You would unpack it from a foil package, you activate it, put it to the mouth, either yourself as the patient or as a caregiver. It also means that if the patient or the person with a seizure is moving around very strongly, is opening the mouth, or is clenching the teeth, or other difficult movements that would make it hard or even impossible to close the sort of lip seal around the mouthpiece, then it will be challenging to use this device. Based on that, our concept is that we would, or patients would try as hard as they can to treat during the early stage of a seizure. So specifically, we are targeting seizure where there is a focal start where the patient may have impaired awareness, but is not yet falling to the ground, not clenching teeth, and is in some way not collaborative, but still breathing and not moving around too strongly. We know that that will exclude a certain number of patients, but there are many patients with a sort of small or focal start of a seizure. And the ultimate aim of the treatment is to treat during that phase, interrupt and stop the seizure during that phase, and prevent the seizure from progressing to a very long seizure, or one that you would normally call a generalized tonic-clonic or convulsive seizure. If you can progress to the next slide, please. As I said before, this device requires a certain airflow to go through the device in order to trigger, in order to actually work. The airflow, of course, also depends on how strongly you breathe and on how essentially large or big the body is, or the lung volume of the patient. That means that below a certain size of the body or below a certain lung volume, this device cannot be used reliably anymore. We've been testing this device in patients down to the age of 12, and it has been working, but below that age, it has not been working with normal breathing or spontaneous breathing anymore. That means that for the time being, the use of the device is limited to adults and children or adolescents down to the age of 12. Now, I do know that some of the patients that are present here or their children are children and maybe of younger age. But again, it is currently the device that we have, and we have to start with something. There may be a small device in the future, but for the time being, we have this, again, most likely working from the age of 12 onwards in adults or in adolescents. For the study, we are looking at patients, or looking for patients actually, who typically have seizures lasting 3 minutes or more. And we are aware of that. That is a very long seizure type, or relative long seizures. But we have to show, that is the aim of the study, that we can shorten seizures of the patients. And obviously, as you will understand, if a seizure only lasts a few seconds, then we cannot shorten it further. So that's also no benefit for the patient. So we have to start from a relatively long seizure in the start and then shorten that seizure using this device, either the full device with a drug in it, or as is common in clinical trials, with an empty, we call it a placebo device, that only contains essentially hot air, so a placebo device. That means in the study that's currently ongoing, half the patients receive the fully functional device with a drug in it, and the other half of the patients receive a device with no drug in it, just a testing device. And as you probably know, that is the only way all studies are done, no matter whether you develop a drug for a vaccine against COVID or a seizure medication. You have to compare a sort of real drug or drug device combination with a placebo one to show what the true effect of the drug is. In the study, and also to reduce how many times a patient would need to receive an empty placebo device, only a single seizure is treated. So if someone enters the study, only a single seizure is treated with the device or the empty device. And afterwards, anyone can go to what we call an open label study, in which everyone receives the full device with the rescue medication in it, and then can, from then on, for several years, receive the full drug with the full device for a long period of time. Different from the phase 2 that was done in 2019, that I mentioned before, the study will occur at home. That means essentially the patient will get training of the device and other methods and the protocol together with a caregiver. So we need essentially not just patients or individuals with seizures, we need essentially always a patient and a caregiver, can be a parent, a relative, or someone else around, which makes this study quite tricky. We have to say that. And it produces a certain amount of work and burden on both patients and caregivers. We are fully aware of that, but still, this is the only way we can conduct the study at home. And the aim of the study is to show that it is possible to use this device in seizures, in prolonged seizures at home. That means, again, we're looking for patients who have more or less regularly seizures, ideally focal seizures, lasting for 3 minutes or more. And again, we need someone, a caregiver, to be present frequently, not all the time, but frequently, so that in the moment of a seizure, that person can be there, can see, okay, that is the seizure that we want to treat, can help deliver the drug, use the device, deliver the drug, and then, and that is the key part, measure with a sort of a stopwatch that is provided, of course, by the study, how long it takes between using the device and the end of the seizure. So we're measuring how long it takes for the device and the drug inside to stop the seizure. That is the aim of that study. And of course, we are hoping that the drug device combination, the full one, will do that very quickly. Since we are using, again, for half the patients, a placebo device with no active medicine in it, it is allowed to use your own or normal rescue medication afterwards. So if the seizure doesn't stop and you have your own rescue medication at home, you can use that after a certain time. We sort of wish patients do that after 5 minutes, but again, you can do so at essentially any time if the seizure does not stop and you feel it has to be stopped by your own rescue medication. And again, at the end of the study, there is going to be an open label study in which everyone receives the full drug in an open way for as long as it's needed, ideally until the drug one day is approved and available by prescription. So to summarize, we have this drug that is developed by Alexa, a small company in California, with a rescue medication in it, and we are very optimistic. We are looking into whether this drug device combination is able to stop ongoing seizures rapidly, if that works at home. And again, the main challenge is to find not only patients with long-lasting prolonged seizures, but also caregivers who can be at that time around and who can do the procedures and methods like giving the drug, measuring the time, and some other activities to ensure that the patient is safe and to ensure that the important time points are measured. And again, I repeat, the drug device combination is not yet approved and available anywhere in the world. We are looking into this, and we are looking into patients who can participate. If you are interested, and we need volunteers for this, please go to the next slide. We have a homepage at UCB that's called UCB Cares. There's a telephone number and an email address. There's also now a dedicated homepage for the study itself called STARS Epilepsy, where you could ask for whether there is a site that does the study, someone in a city next to you. The study is now running in the US and in Japan. It will soon start in Europe and in China and in Australia. So it's a global study. It's running in a number of US cities. Not all of the cities and the sites are listed currently already on the homepage. We're trying to fix that. But again, if you are from a city not listed on the STARS Epilepsy homepage, please shoot an email to UCB Cares and ask, naming your city, if there is a site nearby you. And again, we know that the study involves a significant burden for patients going to sites, traveling to sites maybe, and for the caregiver having to do the assessments and the treatment. But again, it is required to thoroughly assess the efficacy and the safety of this device combination. And once approved, we hope, we believe it will be a medication that will help a number of people, again, those with a more or less slow focal seizure start. With that, I would like to go to the chat. I'll try to do that right now to see if I can see the questions. So the first question was, will patients prone to status epilepticus be permitted to take secondary rescue medication after a certain period of time? Exactly, as I said, after 5 minutes, that is allowed. Also already earlier, if that is needed, but we sort of wish them to do this after 5 minutes to be able to assess those 5 minutes without a second rescue medication. Oh, indeed, there's the answer already for myself. Are there further questions from the audience? I don't see many people because the videos are blocked out. I see no questions right now. I know I've been very fast. Can you bring back the video for myself, essentially, and the device? I just want to show it again.
Yeah, so that you can show the device again?
Yep.
Yes.
We currently have no sites in Canada. There's a question from Canada. So that is currently not possible, I'm afraid. Thanks for the question. All sites in the North America are in the US. Oh, of course, important question. How do you know the dose is administered? If you can unshare again, I should also use the slide either way. Yeah, thank you. So when you pull the tab here, in the real device, this is a testing device, this little thing will turn green for as long as the device is active. And once it has delivered the drug successfully, the green light will turn off. So you know both if the device is ready to deliver drug and the breathing should occur through the mouthpiece, as well as when the green light turns off, you know it has successfully delivered the drug through the mouthpiece to the lung and then the body. I sort of forgot to mention that important detail. So far, this device is a single-use, single-dose device, and this is not ideal. So you cannot sort of recharge the device with a new drug dose like an inkjet printer. I know that Alexa is working on or is developing devices that can be recharged with a cartridge, but currently we are starting with this one. So it's a single-use, single-dose device. So once it is used, you have to essentially discard it, which in the age of trying to prevent sort of rubbish is not ideal, but that is something that we currently have and we start with. There are always ways to improve. So currently it's a single-use, single-dose device. And again, it's triggered by pulling the tab, then it's automatically on. And once it senses the airflow through the mouthpiece, it will deliver the drug to the lung and then the body. Don't be shy, please ask questions. There's one. Yeah, so is this medication fit for individuals with severe cognitive deficits? So there is no need to inhale deeply or forcibly like you would sometimes see for asthma devices. A sort of normal breath is needed or is enough to trigger the device. Of course, some breathing, some delivery of air to the lung has to be there, but it doesn't have to be a strong or deep inhalation. Normal breathing is enough to trigger the device. And again, down to the age of 12 years, there is enough air volume that is sort of flowing through it to deliver the drug and also the air to the lung. No deep breathing is required, even if the breathing rhythm is not natural. It just has to be essentially enough to deliver air and then the drug to the lung. So yeah, the answer is yes. The key part is creating or ensuring the lip seal around the mouthpiece. If there is, again, strong movement, like in a tonic-clonic seizure, during the seizure, then this will be quite challenging. And this is actually the next question. Yes, is there a mask that we are developing to make the lip seal easier? We are looking into various ways to improve this, including a mask. It's not clear if it's possible technically, but we're looking into that. Currently, let's be honest, we have this device. This is our starting point, and we have to start with something. Once this works and is ideally approved, again, we will be looking into possibly smaller devices, possibly a mask adaptation, possibly other ways to improve it further. But for the moment, we have this device only. So no mask, no adapter, just this pure device, as you can see it here on screen. It also means that if someone, for some muscular reasons also, could not close lips, either actively himself or herself or by someone else putting the lips around, again, this will be challenging or not possible to use the device. and we know of this sort of limitation. Thank you for the question. How many more volunteers are you needing? The study has just begun. So the study in the totality needs about 200 volunteers, 200 patients, participants, and we have just started. So we need nearly 200. I don't know how many here on screen. If everyone can contribute one, we're totally happy.
It looks like a question came in, I think, right before that one as well. Is the medicine the same for everyone, or presumably is it tailored to each patient based on age, weight, seizure type, etc.?
So we still have to look into if we have to adapt the dose for adolescents or children. For adults, it's going to be just 2 milligrams, so the same dose and the same device for everyone. One of the very good features of benzodiazepines, like the one that's in here, is that they have what we call broad therapeutic window. So they are safe to use in a certain range of doses. So there is no adaptation needed for different weights or gender. Again, if that holds true for children in the lower age range, we are still looking into. So great question again. I've been very fast, I know. I've tried to make it short, hopefully also clear, and hopefully I've raised some interest. Again, the questions seem to be denoting that some interest has been there. If you have further questions, I've shown you the homepage UCB Cares, or although my name. And again, there is the Start Epilepsy homepage coming soon. This video is recorded and will be posted in some way, I don't know exactly how, on the, I guess, homepages or portals of the associated organizations, and we'll make the contact as easy as possible for all of you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roebling. We appreciate your time in providing the information and the introduction and overview of the STARS clinical research trial. For all of those that did register, we will provide a notification via email when the link is available, as well as the contact information that Dr. Roebling talked about. If you have any additional questions or are looking for more information, you can always reach out to us as well at the TSC Alliance, the LGS Foundation, or the Dravet Syndrome Foundation. We'll make sure to get your information to the appropriate people. But we really thank you again for all of your time, your great questions, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.